Hey guys, it's Maddie from Let's Eat Plants, and today we're gonna try making a gluten-free pizza made from Steel Cut Oats. So today's recipe was inspired by Steel Cut Oats. A lot of Steel Cut Oats. I recently went to Costco and saw this big beautiful bag of Steel Cut Oats for a very reasonable price and decided to buy it. Not only do we eat Steel Cut Oats pretty much every day for breakfast, but I've also been experimenting with some recipes using oat flour. And I came across this recipe on momfoodie.com for an oatmeal pizza crust. And I was like, whoa, that sounds unique, but it also sounds pretty healthy. So I'm willing to give it a try and see what it tastes like. Now, even the author of this recipe says herself, this is not a mind-blowingly delicious, authentic pizza crust recipe, but I think it does work really well for anyone looking to eliminate gluten or limit gluten in their life. And also just if you have a lot of oats on hand and you wanna make some more recipes using oat flour. So that's what we're making today. I am interested to see how this is going to turn out. My expectations are not very high in terms of taste, but hey, it's worth a shot and let's see how it is. First up, we're going to need some yeast. I'm just using a basic quick rise yeast. And I'm actually not really sure the role of yeast in this recipe because we're not letting the dough rise at all. So I'm not really sure if it's for flavor or what, but the recipe calls for it and I've got it, so we're gonna try it. So first we're just gonna mix this with a little bit of water and maple syrup instead of sugar to activate it. If you guys don't know how to make oat flour from Steel Cut Oats, it's honestly very, very easy. You essentially just blend them in a high-speed blender. But I did make a whole video about it if you are interested. I will link it up here as well as in the description box down below, and you can check that out after this and watch how I made my oat flour. The recipe says to reserve a 1/4 cup of your oat flour. I think you want something to dust your work surface when you roll it out, so that's what we've done here. I'm using garlic powder instead of fresh garlic, mainly just because it's easier, but if you have fresh garlic and that's what you prefer, feel free to use that. Is this normal or did I leave my yeast to grow too long? I think it's only been about 10 minutes, but dang, this is really big. Our little pizza dough ball is ready. This is a lot smaller than I thought it was going to be. I mean, I know it makes a thin crust, but wow, this looks really small. So let's see what it looks like when we roll it out and then we'll go from there. Okay, the dough is a lot more crumbly and dry than I thought it would be. And I'm worried I'm not gonna be able to lift it once it's really thin. So I'm just gonna roll the rest of it directly onto parchment paper and that way I can just put it on the pan from there. The recipe doesn't say how thin to roll it, but I think this is looking pretty good. I also couldn't really be bothered to make any kind of a crust on it because every time I tried to roll the edges, they just crumbled. So that's fine with me. The shape doesn't really matter. More important will be the taste. So let's bake this and see how it turns out. The recipe says to bake the crust at 450 degrees for 7 to 8 minutes first, and then we'll take it out, add the toppings, and put it back in for another 9 or 10 minutes. Of course, pizza toppings are whatever you like. I'm using regular marinara sauce with a little bit of barbecue sauce, as well as just some basic veggies, red onion, artichoke hearts, roasted red peppers, spicy banana peppers, and pineapple. Now, before people go crazy in the comments about my use of pineapple on pizza, like I said, toppings are up to you. If you don't like pineapple, don't use it. My husband loves it. But actually, after trying it a few times, I kind of like it too. So if you don't like it, just don't use it. Of course, you could also put some vegan cheese on there if that's your thing. I'm just curious to see how the crust tastes, and I feel like putting any vegan cheese on there would really kind of cover the taste. So I'm just gonna do a plain basic veggie with sauce. it smells really good in here. Like, it smells like an authentic pizza. Maybe that's my toppings, but still, it smells really, really good in here. And I'm excited to taste this. I just want to try a piece of the crust first because I would like to know what it tastes like. Just the crust. Shock of the day, it does not taste like oats. Oh my goodness. Whoa, that's really good. All right, I don't know that it holds up that well. Oh, there it goes. I was just going to say, I don't know if it holds up that well as a pizza, like a sturdy crust, but what really matters is the taste, right? You guys, I am so surprised right now. I thought for sure it was going to have an oat or oatmeal taste to the crust, but it does not at all. I can definitely understand how the author of this recipe was saying that it doesn't taste like an authentic Italian pizza. It's definitely not super crispy on all of the bottom part where there's sauce. So I would say the texture is a little bit soft, which is kind of different than a traditional pizza. However, the flavor is so good that to me, it really doesn't matter. I am honestly very surprised by this recipe. I did think it was gonna be a flop, and you know what? It's delicious. My next question is whether or not you really need the yeast, because like I said, it didn't do anything to make the dough rise or anything like that. So if it's just for flavor, then you may be able to leave it out pretty easily. So I would like to do some more experimentation and see what it's like to leave out the yeast from this recipe. Okay, it is the next morning, and after making that pizza crust yesterday, I couldn't stop thinking about the use of yeast in the recipe, and if it's really necessary or not. So this morning I woke up and decided to make a whole new pizza not using yeast. I followed all the exact same instructions, except of course the yeast. So I went through the whole exact same process, using the same ingredients, the same baking method, and pretty much the same toppings, except for the artichoke hearts. I did run out of artichoke hearts. But other than that, it's exactly the same. And here is our final result. I mean, visually it looks the same because, as I mentioned, the yeast wasn't doing anything to help the dough rise. So the only reason I could think of for the yeast is flavor. Tastes pretty much the same. You guys, these taste basically the same. I am really baffled right now why yeast was in that original recipe because I think this tastes just as good as the one from yesterday. So all that being said, here are my final modifications for this recipe. Number one, if you don't want to waste some yeast on this, I really don't see the point. Second of all, since there is no yeast, I don't think you even need to add the 1 teaspoon of sweetener. Maybe it does add a slight bit of flavor to your dough, so if you want to keep using it, go for it. But if you leave it out, I don't think it will affect the recipe that much. And lastly, I don't think you need to reserve a 1/4 cup of oat flour for rolling out your dough. I just rolled it out today directly on the parchment paper and it worked perfectly, so that's what I'll continue to do from now on. Of course, I will leave the original recipe link down below as well as my modifications for it. In addition to that, if you're looking for the video on how to make steel cut oats into oat flour, I will put that right here for you guys to check out. Or if you're looking for more recipes on how to use oat flour, I will leave that right here as well. Also, please feel free to subscribe. I'm making new videos every week, bringing you vegan recipes and whole food plant-based recipes for you to make at home. And with that, thanks so much for watching. Let's eat plants, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.